Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time!
Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Taylor's gone. Come on, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday, frigid Friday, I might add. I hope you've had a great week, ready for the weekend, and if not, hopefully we can get you heading in that direction. Appreciate you being along with us. Jim Coyle with you as always, coming to you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. We're keeping it thawed out here. Looking forward to another big day, fun. Todd Leary is to join us here shortly. We'll preview the Indiana basketball game that is coming up this evening. And also may talk to Todd about allegedly being on the banned list by Coach Mike Woodson. But lots to get to. How about Bill Belichick? His name floated around. I heard someone say that Belichick was looking potentially at being the North Carolina coach into that job. And I'm like, oh, I was thinking of his son, who is the defensive coordinator at Washington. But no, it's actually Bill Belichick, who apparently spoke with UNC about that job. That came from ESPN. He's 72. He's been out of football for the year. Not that he doesn't know what he's doing or anything like that, but he wouldn't have a GM. He wouldn't have a guy to pick the team for him. College athletics are so much different than the pros, and especially for someone who has never done it. I don't see UNC going in that direction. But hey, who knows? You never know. We'll see. But they fired Mike Brown, North Carolina did, not too long ago. He was 73. So they're used to dealing with older coaches, but 72 is kind of that's late in life to start your first gig in that arena. And so I don't see that happening, but fun to talk about. I wonder if that's just a path to help his son become the head coach. Who knows? We shall see. Georgia is apparently set to get back their top running back, Trevor Etienne. Kirby Smart said yesterday that he's hopeful Trevor Etienne, who missed the number 5 Bulldogs past 3 games with a rib injury, will be able to play against number 2 Texas in the SEC championship game on Saturday. He was listed as questionable on the SEC's availability report Wednesday night, but that's still 4 days away. I don't understand why you would have an availability report 4 days ahead of the match. It makes no sense. How the hell do you know? I mean, guys heal. Most availability reports, I would imagine, coming out the day before, but even the Big Ten comes out the day of, I believe. So, yeah, that's a little early in my mind. But someone who will not be at the SEC championship game, Bevo, Texas's big mascot, big steer. He weighs like 1,700 pounds, but the size required for an enclosure large enough to house Bevo who is 1,700 pounds, like I said, a horn span of 58 inches, was the issue for Saturday, according to an SEC spokesman. Bevo traveled to last year's CFP semifinal at the Sugar Bowl, but the conference felt the space in Atlanta wasn't suitable. So, no Bevo. I'm not sure how much that really matters. To be honest with you, I'm not sure that anyone will notice. UGA 11 did not make the trip to Austin with the Bulldogs during Georgia's 30-15 victory in October. UGA is expected in Atlanta, though. It's only a 70-mile trip from Athens. So UGA will be there. Indiana that's a spot that Indiana could be playing as well in Athens. Everything's going to shake out Saturday. And for the most part, things are pretty set. But my question is, and I keep wondering, what happens if Clemson wins? What happens to SMU? Because the big thing has been that conference championship losers are not going to be dinged about this. Well, they're like 8th. That would bring in, and Clemson's not in the top 12 right now, so that would give Clemson the automatic bid, and that would squeeze Alabama out, who is currently in, I believe. That's the only movement that I can foresee happening. Boise State is in there right now, but they play UNLV. If they lose to UNLV, it'll be UNLV and not Boise State. So that one is pretty set. Just curious about the SMU thing. That could alter Indiana's path of whom they play, I believe. So, hello to everybody. How is everybody doing? Purdue took a big loss on the basketball court last night at Penn State. Yeah, that was a pretty good beatdown, but I've been telling you this conference is going to be wicked. Penn State is not one of the teams I had on the bingo card of being tough to play at. So can you imagine how tough it is truly going to be to play basketball in this league? Penn State, you've got to go. We still have teams like Maryland and Michigan State and all these UCLA, Illinois. It's just, this is going to be a meat grinder of a basketball season. And it is not going to be for the faint of heart. You are going to have to be ready to play every night, no matter where you go. And we've seen it's just not something that is easily done today. These teams, they just don't always have that fight ready to take to it. Appreciate everybody joining us, no matter how and where you're listening. One of our great affiliates like 97.7 ESPN, The Ref, always the right call in Evansville, covering the Southwest Indiana area. Up in the region, on the voice of the region, 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM, WJOB, and Fort Wayne's only sports station, 1380 The Fan. Keep it locked right here. No reason to go anywhere else throughout the day if you're traveling around, out driving to work or going shopping, whatever you might be doing. Andrew said Purdue looked awful last night. Easy to do. Well, you get into those arenas like Penn State, man, not a lot of excitement there until after the game when they stormed the court, but I'm sure it was more exciting if you were there. But that's kind of a tomb there at Penn State. It's not very I remember the last time I was at Illinois. They have these lounge chairs, literally, these recliners and whatnot close to the court. And I'm like, how the hell is this supposed to promote people being into the games and all that. You could kick back and relax and fall asleep. It's probably a good idea on paper, but not so sure about the rest of it. But yeah, I guess making people happy is what that was about. But it's a weird setup, but pretty nice, I guess. It would be like watching basketball in your living room. Purdue has a couple of chairs like that close to the court as well, I believe. Man, Indiana taking on Miami of Ohio tonight. We'll talk to Todd about previewing that game. What does Indiana need to do? They need, boy, if they could play like they played the last game out, that style, I think it would go a long way in making that team a lot better. But I think that was an accident. I believe that was an accident. We'll find out. It was not the big man show as it has been. Luke Goody had a coming out party, hitting 5 shots from behind the 3-point line. Can he continue that? He had not been in shooting the ball very well, but man, he got off on that night. You could tell he was in the zone, just hitting shots. But as Todd said, who will join us here in a little bit, it was expected that was going to happen. He's just too good of a shooter for that not to have happened. And that was the night. And so maybe that confidence boost will stir him up. Good question, Fred. Not sure yet. Kind of waiting for Big Ten season to start for the post-game shows. To be honest with you, not a lot of talk. It's not a lot to talk about when you're playing these games that you should win by 20. So we'll see. Not positive yet. Brian was at the Brian Regan comedy show last night and forgot to record it. I just saw that part. I'm sure you're talking about something else. Jason thinks there's still a chance Indiana can get a home game. I don't see a path any way possible of Indiana getting a home game. You would have to move teams out that are in front of them, and I'm just not sure that's going to happen other than SMU, but they would be replaced by Clemson. So that's not making any room. Yeah, I don't see a path for Indiana to be able to host a home game. I'm not sure how that would happen. The conference champions are not going to move. If Penn State loses to Oregon State, they're going to be in the number 5 slot. That's the first home. That's the first team to host a home game. Notre Dame is 6th. They're not moving. You've got Tennessee. They're not moving. And I forget who the 4th team was. Ohio State, maybe? I don't have it pulled up, but there's just not a path for Indiana to get a home game. They're the 10th seed. They would have to move up multiple seeds, and I don't see any path to move up. And I'm sure open to discussing it. But, yeah, I don't know how that would happen. Yeah, I don't see it happening at all, as a matter of fact. The SEC champion. If Texas were to lose to Georgia, I'm pretty sure they're just going to swap spots at worst, which would put Texas hosting the game against Indiana. If Oregon loses to Penn State, Oregon goes to the number 5 slot. There's just no path of creating 2 open spots in front of Indiana. I'm not sure who the thinking is that would drop out in front of them. Conference champions are not going to be affected. The only one, like I said, I would be curious about SMU if they lose to Clemson, but I don't think that they drop out completely. We'll see. Hey, we've got lots more coming up. The Shot Father, Todd Leary, will join us with plenty to chat about. We'll preview tonight's game. Back with all that and much more when we return to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. If you're looking for a great gift for the Indiana sports fan in your life, just go to isbradio.itemorder.com and you'll find plenty of options, including sweatshirts, hoodies, t-shirts, pullovers, caps, and much more, including our Welcome to the Sig 10 line that benefits the local Boys and Girls Club. That's isbradio.itemorder.com. isbradio.itemorder.com.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off of your first order.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com.
Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum, Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Friday, Frigid Friday, and we'll warm it up a little bit with the Shot Father, Todd Leary from myjumpshot.com. Make sure if you have a kid, know a kid, or a kid that needs help with their basketball fundamentals, especially if you've got someone that you're trying to really move up to the next level. Check out myjumpshot.com and the Shot Father, Todd Leary. Greetings, sir. How are you? I hope you're keeping warm.
Well, I'm still inside. You can see that.
I was like yesterday. I'm like, I am not going out. I am not going out no matter what. And what did I do? I picked yesterday to be the day that I go out and shop and do all this stuff. And at the end of the day, and I'm like, oh my God, it was Arctic. But it's going to warm back up. But we've got plenty of things to keep it warmed up. Tons of football coming up this weekend, of course, basketball as well. Indiana on the hardwood tonight as they play their final. Well, I guess it's not their final, but final game before they get a Big Ten game against Miami of Ohio tonight at home at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall. Last night, Purdue. I've talked about how this league is going to be a meat grinder. But Penn State was not one of the places I had on the meat grinder list, Todd, and they just took it to Purdue last night. But part of that, it seems like, man, you have to be ready to play every night in this league, no matter where it is. And that was a perfect example.
Yeah, it was. And I'll tell you, I hadn't watched Penn State this year. It's one of the teams I hadn't seen play yet, so I wasn't familiar with the fact that they have almost their entire lineup back that started last year. And the fact that Ace Baldwin's still there, I thought it seemed like it was a long time when he was there last year. I couldn't believe they had the majority of their lineup with Puff Johnson and Hicks and those guys that are still there. Once I saw the lineup and saw the fact that they have so many returning players that played so many minutes last year and contributed to their success last year, I realized, I mean, that's another team I hadn't even considered as being a difficult place to go play in the Big Ten this year. And I know, like, Penn State's not great. Like, they're not a national contender, in my opinion. But they're extremely solid, and they got a bunch of veteran players, which makes it a hard place to go play. And so when you look at it, people will still probably say the Big Ten's down because Penn State's not a team that's going to go, have a chance to beat Duke or somebody like that. But I mean, that's a tough place to go play. And it's just another one of the road games in the Big Ten that's going to be a difficult one to win.
Absolutely. And I'm like, wow, that is going to make it even more fun. But it also showed something else that we've talked about a lot is the parity in this league.
Yeah.
There is no one that stands head and shoulders above anybody else, especially now because those that thought Purdue was it's not that they're not good. They're not great.
Right.
And I don't know that anyone is great. Not that they can't get there and grow and become that, but this is going to be like the Big 12 was in football, man, with 80% of your conference, just put them in a blender and mix them up because you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah. And, I'm very bad about this, especially on the shows that we do about, having an overreaction to a certain game or a certain loss. I mean, if Indiana had gone to Penn State last night and lost in the manner Purdue lost, I mean, they got blown out. I mean, it ended up being an 11-point game, but they were down 20 the majority of the game. We would be saying, all kinds of craziness about, this guy's not doing that, and the coaching staff didn't have him ready, and all these different things. But because it's Painter, and I'm in the same boat, because it's Painter, we don't immediately go to blaming the coaching staff. Now all of a sudden it's maybe Penn State's better, or the players didn't play well, or whatever it might be. And so I think we just all have to, I'm cautioning myself as much as anybody in those situations, but it leads to exactly the point you made. Like, every game in the Big Ten, you're going to have to go in and play well. You're not going to be able to lay any eggs and get a W. And that's just, when you've got 20 game conference schedule, like, that's 20 mentally prepared games in a row. And I know that sounds easy, but it's not. Like, it's not.
There used to always be some games where I hate to use this term, but you could, for lack of a better phrase, take the night off.
Yeah.
And still cruise to a win.
Yep.
Boy, there may be.
I can't think of where that is right now.
Might have one game somewhere along the line, but buddy,
I can't even think of who it is.
Wrong night to think it, probably.
Yeah. I can't think of who that game's going to be, to be honest with you. I mean, it's going to be one of the new teams. It's going to be one of the new teams like Washington or USC or somebody like that. Maybe. I have no idea. I'm just saying that because I don't know their rosters.
It would probably be USC, I guess. Yeah, now that you mention it, Washington's probably a little stouter, but even a team like that, the minute you relax a little bit too much, and that's the night that they happen to get hot, because they're still trying, they're still working to win,
and that's going to be the longest road trip these kids have ever made. Maybe that you can again say probably that shouldn't matter, but flying all the way across the country to California to play a game, I think we did that once. I think we actually played one game in California one time, but I'm not even sure. Maybe we didn't. I'm not sure. But it's not something that happens all that often. So it's definitely new. And you know what? Like, they've got to take the same approach Coach Signetti said. This is a business trip. We're getting there late. We're going straight to the hotel. We're getting up in the morning for a business meeting, and we're going to handle business and get on a plane and get out of town.
Exactly.
And that's the way it's got to be handled, because, you know, it's going to be different, though. I mean, I can guarantee you I never got on a plane and flew for 4 hours or however long it's going to take for them to get to California.
Unless you're going to Hawaii or something. Did you ever play in the Maui?
I did. I was redshirted, actually, the year that we played in it. So, yeah, we did that. But actually, we broke that up because we flew to California and spent the night. Actually, I think we went there and played it. We flew over there and played a game and then flew. Or maybe it was Texas. We flew to UTEP. I think we played at UTEP.
Oh, Don Haskins days.
Yep. And then flew out of there. I think we opened their arena. Man, I want to say it was like 1989 or 90. They had a brand new arena, and Coach Knight was friends with their administrators or coach or somebody, and we flew down there and played in there. I can't remember I think we won, but I'm not sure. I think we barely won.
Speaking of which, Indiana on the hardwood tonight against Miami of Ohio. Last time out, we saw them win in a different manner. It seemed like it was accidental, but maybe some eyes were open. I don't know if we see that again tonight, but I think fans would sure like to see that style of play.
Right, and it'll be an interesting game. It's a kind of a neat homecoming. Peter Suter, who played at Carmel with one of my sons, now plays at Miami of Ohio, scored 42 points for Miami of Ohio the other night in their last game. So that's a big reunion for him coming home. Great kid, awesome family up in Carmel. So just be a lot of people there rooting for him if you hear some of those cheers. But also the Anderson kid out of Evansville, also on the Miami of Ohio's team. So some home ties.
And a lot of homecomings this year already.
Yep.
I mean, Marty Simmons was here. Then you had Daryl Thomas. Daryl Thomas, right? Daryl Thomas's son.
Daryl Thomas's son.
Played Pat Knight. Boy, that's a lot of homecomings already this year.
Yeah, pretty cool. It's neat when it seems like that works out a lot, but that just kind of tells you how many Indiana kids there are that play basketball across the country somewhere. And so that's part of it. But yeah, I think Indiana fans, me being one of them, wants to see a up and down style of play tonight, wants to see, as much as I mean, it's wasted breath to see, you know, one of the bigs on the floor.
Luke Goody and
Mbako
on the floor at the same time.
Yeah, I would like to see that a little bit. But yeah, I'll be interested to see if I don't think one game you all of a sudden throw your whole game plan out the window and that's what you start going with. But I think if those guys can play well together, again, I think it starts to plant the seed of maybe this lineup needs to be on the floor a little bit more together.
It just seemed like there was a lot more spacing watching that too. A lot, the lanes were wider. Everything was just more open. It seemed like shooting obviously opens the game up.
It does. But look at the size of Bala. Like Omar Balo is a gigantic human being. Like he takes up a lot of space. He's way bigger than Malik Renew. And I consider Malik Renew, like he's a space eater. Like he's a big dude in there. He's not some skinny, you know, high flyer. Like he's a big dude that takes up space. And Balo is way bigger than him. So when you put those two guys together in that lane, it looks clogged up. It looks like there's not a lot of movement going on because those two guys, I mean, Renew does a little bit more, but Balo, for the most part, doesn't leave that, that lane area. And there's no question about it. That is, you change the way that you play. I'll just say it that way. I'm not going to say one way is better than another, but you change the way that you play when you've got a big guy that's always in that area.
Yeah, obviously. And this team has so many parts that they would like to be able to get going together in concert. But and Luke Goody is one of those guys that has not had the start to his year that he wanted, but all of a sudden, boom, he has that breakout game. And you've talked about it many times that, boy, it's just a matter of time. I mean, him and Mbako, they're just shooters. That's what they are. They're good shooters as well. And we saw that from Luke the other night. You could tell he was feeling it. He was in the zone. He was knocking down big shots, quick shots, didn't matter. He was hitting them. And but they need to get the rest of the team going because he was 5 of 7, I believe. The rest of the team was 2 of whatever. But as long as you've got somebody hitting them, I guess, on a particular night, that works. But you'd certainly like to be able to spread that around a little bit.
Yeah, you like to be able to make the other team has to guard all 5 guys from the arc, or 4 of the 5 guys from the arc. But, I think the majority of the three-pointers in games this year, when there's multiple threes made, most of the time it's going to come from Mbako and Goody. And that doesn't mean that Rice can't sprinkle them in and Carlisle won't sprinkle them in and Galloway will sprinkle them in. Hopefully Leal continues with playing time. Hopefully, in my opinion, I want him on the floor more. I think he makes great decisions and good plays when he's out there and he's in the right spot, helping on defense. And he's not a liability defensively, in my opinion. But I hope we see him out there. He can knock down more shots. I like that ability to be able to spread the floor and be like that. I think it makes it so much easier, for Balo and Renew to be able to maneuver on the inside and get themselves free for easier baskets when you've got guys that can knock it down from the outside.
Absolutely. What, besides the things that we've obviously talked about, what is a way for Indiana to start out the game to maybe get them heading in a direction of that more open offense, other than the particular personnel that's on the floor?
I mean, quite honestly, the stuff that they run, the plays that they run, and that stuff is it's kind of what gets the play started. I'll call them ball movement starters. That's what gets the play going, and you'll see that ball screen and all that. Indiana kind of morphs itself. Last year it did it numerous times with Trey Galloway. I think right now it has a chance to do that a lot more, and especially with Miles Rice, of getting into the flow of the game. And then once the game kind of takes on its own personality, which every game does, then the Indiana gets kind of comfortable in that high ball screen, guy driving down the lane and making plays. And last year, I think Galloway was really the only guy that was really efficient at running that play. And just excited to see hopefully the different guys come out and play. But the players can't really – knocking down an early shot helps. The coaching staff lets you get away with a little bit more when you knock a few shots down. So –
Well, hopefully they could get it going, because the Big Ten play for the Hoosiers will start on Monday. They've got very little time to turn it around in between.
Weird schedule. Friday, Monday.
I was
weird
just getting ready to say, not only is that a weird schedule, but for the Monday game to be a Big Ten game. Yeah. So you're playing this Friday night game on a huge sports weekend, which I know that probably doesn't have a lot of bearing on them, but hey, man, who doesn't want to watch some football? But then you've got to turn around. Now you've got to get into the conference play mindset. Even though it's a home game, you've got to be on your toes. And to jump into Big Ten play like that has to be just super weird.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the days of the week are the more weird part. Because you definitely get into a routine. I remember I want to say back when we played, ESPN started like Super Tuesdays or something like that. So then we always ended up seemingly playing on Tuesday. There were never any Monday games. So
Turned
to
into
me,
Big
Monday games seem weird. Like there was always Big Monday, but Big Ten teams didn't play in it.
No, it was like the Big 12 or something back when the Big 12 sucked.
And it was just weird. Like when to think of a Monday game to me just seems weird because we didn't do it very often. I'm sure we did it some, but not very often. And so it's an adjustment. I'm telling you, these players, we are all creatures of habit. Like how many times do you say to yourself, boy, it doesn't seem like a Thursday or it doesn't seem like Monday or whatever it is. Like, you feel that in a basketball game too. And I'm telling you, a lot of times the crowds on early week games, like a Tuesday night game, and in this case, a Monday night game when you're not playing against, Purdue or, one of the big rivalries, you notice it in the crowd. The crowd's a little flatter than, the student section will even be a little flatter on a Monday than it would be on tonight's game, for example.
Absolutely. And that matters. If you don't think so,
sure it does.
Ask Purdue last night.
No doubt. They stormed the court. Did you see Penn State storm the court?
I guarantee. I didn't know that they would have enough people there to storm the court.
I didn't either. I felt that's the first reaction I had as soon as I saw it. I can't believe there's that many people there.
I was like, man, Purdue must have fallen asleep because not a lot of excitement in that building. But, hey, they got the job done. Todd Leary, the shot father, with us. Got plenty more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. From the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios, we are back with more to deliver it to you right after pause for the cause and after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here at the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this frigid Friday. Hopefully it's going to warm up a little bit, though. Todd Leary, the shot father from MyJumpShot.com, with us right now as well. Man, some football news. Indiana loses their first coach, Tino Sunseri. He's off to UCLA to become their offensive coordinator, Todd. He replaces Eric Bieniemy. But less than 24 hours after he does that, UCLA gets a 4-star quarterback flip to UCLA to go with him. So that is already paying dividends for the Bruins. And the Bruins, as much as they were the butt of jokes this season, they turned it around. They played well throughout the year and got better. I think they finished one game under bowl eligibility. But they started turning things around, which was good to see for them and helped Indiana. But Indiana loses their first coach.
Was he one of the ones that came with Coach Sig?
Yes.
He was. He's been with him for a long time.
Yeah, well, probably, I don't know, maybe 6 years, I think.
Yeah, that's a long time. So, I mean, we said this earlier in the season. Job number one was going to be to try to keep Cignetti around, and job number two was going to be try to keep those coordinators and guys that have been with him, which is almost impossible. Almost all of those coaches that are coordinators want to become a head coach. Almost all, not all, but almost all. And it probably won't be the last coach they lose.
No, because every head coach was at one time an assistant coach.
Yep.
It's just part of the food chain.
Yep.
Hopefully it's a slow tide, though. You don't want to lose all those guys.
No doubt.
Because that's as hard, if not harder, than replacing key players.
And if you think about it, look across the country. I mean, Indiana did something that's pretty historical. Yeah, it's probably been done before, but to flip this program around, if the people who know where it was at, a year ago versus where it's at today, other programs, Coach Cignetti gets the credit for that, as he should, but all these other guys were around and they saw it and they've been around for a long time. They know the system, and other schools are going to want to know that system and that secret formula that they had, because it's historical. I can't think of another example of it turning around to be as bad as it was. I've never seen anything like it in any sport.
No, me either. And granted, it would not have happened like this fast without the transfer portal. But with or without the portal, it's still
everybody had the portal. Everybody had the portal. So yeah, I mean, it's
remarkable.
Fair game.
Yeah, remarkable deal. Oh, how about Bill Belichick's name being bounced? He's spoken to the people at North Carolina. He's 72. I don't say that doubting that his coaching ability, obviously, but he's 72 and he's never even coached in college. Coaching in college is a hard ass job. It's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. I mean, it's just different. Like, I'm not saying it's easier. I'm not saying it's less time consuming. I'm not saying it's more. I honestly, I've never done either job, but when you just analyze the recruiting aspect of it, it seems like it would be a more time-consuming job and a more all-inclusive job for a 72-year-old man to just start doing. Like, if he's who'd they just get rid of, like Mac Brown or somebody? I mean, he was probably close to 70.
Who was 73?
I was going to say he was probably close to 70 years old. So, I mean, it's not like that age man can't do it. It kind of depends on the man. And Bill Belichick has literally been all over all of these broadcasts and all the different, NFL things, media things that they're doing. It's not like he's sitting at home on his couch doing nothing. So he's traveling around working and doing stuff. he's going to end up somewhere. I know they threw his name around about Dallas earlier in the year, and every time they throw his name around, I just don't think it fits. I look at him like an old school coach, and that way of coaching just seems to be fading away.
Oh, absolutely. I see a great position for him would be, like, we'll use North Carolina as an example, for them to find an up-and-coming coach, but to hire Bill Belichick as the coaching consultant. He doesn't have to do all the recruiting
crap.
Like
Thad Matta? You mean like Thad Matta?
In theory, yes. In theory, yes.
The way that was supposed to work out, yeah.
Exactly. But man, having him, can you imagine having him in your corner where he is just working with the coaches on designing and building the team and the program? I think that would be spectacular because he obviously has a wealth of knowledge. He's one of the smartest people ever in the game.
Yeah, but look, like I'll just say it this way. This is not directed at any particular person in the world. This is just my feelings on that. Coaches I have yet to meet a coach that's at a high level that doesn't have somewhat of an ego. Okay. And I say that positively. I think you have to have that. I think the best players in the world are arrogant jerks. Okay. That's fine. Like that on the court, that's what you're supposed to be. Like you're there to win basketball games. You're there to win football games. End of story. And so coaches have egos, and on paper, you and me sitting here talking about, hey, Bill Belichick, over some up and coming coach, man, that situation is harder to accomplish than what it just seems like on paper, because there's a lot of factors that go into it, and you got to get the right personalities mixed up, and that's mixed together, and that's not an easy thing to accomplish.
No, I was trying to quickly find a Luke Goody clip that I played the other day, but I think I may have already deleted it. It was after he had that big game, and I think that he said, I'm either one of, or I'm the best shooter or I consider myself the best shooter in the Big Ten, something like that.
Yeah, I heard it.
And not for a second did that even enter my mind as an arrogant. I knew exactly what he was saying and doing at that moment. It was just that obvious. And that is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that isn't an arrogant statement. If you don't think that, then you're not a very good shooter. End of the story. Now, there's probably, 25 kids in the Big Ten that feel like they're one of the top 2 or 3 shooters in the Big Ten, and that's the way it should be. That's not, there's probably 4 or 5 of those 25 that are delusional, but for the most part, that's why I've said it all along. Like, I think Anthony Leal is a good basketball player. Okay. I would not put him in a classification of like a standstill shooter. Can he knock down shots at a high rate? Yes, he's a good shooter, but I wouldn't say he's like a standstill shooter, like a knockdown shooter. Luke Goody's a knockdown shooter. Mbako, knockdown shooter. Like it's so apparently obvious when you watch those guys shoot, like there's a touch and a feel to it. Like I recognize that extremely easily. There's also very good shooters who don't have very good touch. They've just worked hard enough to get to that point. And that's what I would put some other people into that category for Indiana. But in no way, shape, or form is Luke Goody bragging by saying he thinks he's one of the top shooters in the Big Ten, because you better think that. You bet he's right, and you better think that, or you're definitely not.
Absolutely.
I felt that way, and I probably wasn't one of the 3 best shooters on our team.
Well, but partly
that's just saying. Like, I still felt that way though, and all the way down the line. Like, I think everybody on our team had that confidence, except for Chris Reynolds. Chris Reynolds just didn't have the confidence in his shot. He had the confidence in his game, but not the confidence in his shot. But all the way down our roster, Jamal Meeks is extremely confident in his shot. Like, people didn't know that, and he was a good shooter. He just never really got into that rhythm, and he was always labeled a point guard. So, you better think that way. No matter how far down the bench you are, you better think that way, or you're not going to make them.
If you don't, no one else is going to think it.
For sure.
You've got to believe in yourself without question. What was it like to find out that you were allegedly on a banned list? I found that to be funny. But while it is kind of comical, then there's the side that it's not comical, and there's a little dysfunction obviously there. Not that this is breaking news, it's not, but that cannot be good for a program, I wouldn't think, just to have that chatter, whether it's even true or not.
Oh no, it sucks for a program. Like there's no question about it. The fact that we have the negativity and all of that about it does suck. But I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong in the scenario. I
want to say this. I've been thinking about this. It floors me because no one has gone out of their way more than Todd Leary to be positive about this program, to be positive about game in, game out, to be positive about the coaching staff, to not say negative things, to get upset with me if I do say negative things. I mean, that's what blew me away. You have gone out of your way to be positive about everything about it. And so that kind of floored me. And I was like, okay, that makes zero sense to me.
Yeah. And you know what? Like it's, I'll just say it this way. Like I want the team to be successful. I want the coaches to be, I honestly I don't care if it would have been Archie Miller. Like when Archie Miller got hired, I wasn't disappointed. Like when Coach Woodson got hired, I wasn't disappointed. I was excited that something new could happen out of it. I am surprised at the way that the team plays a little bit, at Coach Woodson's style of not liking the three-pointer. Coming from the NBA, everything in the NBA is so three-point heavy that I think I fell into the category of thinking that they were going to be more like that. And so I wasn't disappointed, and I've always kind of stood up for him. I do understand. Look, it's not always the coaches and it's not always the players. Sometimes it's a mixture of all of it when things are not going well and when things are going well. And so, I try not to get too negative about. I get super negative. I've tried to not be that way about the officials and that stuff anymore. But the whole thing with Brian and all of that, people don't know there's some stuff behind the scenes that Brian had with Coach Woodson and that stuff in the NBA. And Brian is probably warranted for having the feelings that he has. Those same scenarios didn't happen to a lot of the rest of us. So I think Brian started maybe on a little more negative note than a lot of former players did and that stuff. And we can't affect that. Like, let's just support what's there and hope that they get better. But when they don't, here's the hard part. And this is what we all learned that played for Coach Knight and the guys who even didn't play for Coach Knight even after. The standard at Indiana is high. And when they don't live up to that standard, boy, it's difficult for us to spin it and not say that. And I think this staff took some of that stuff a little maybe more directly than they should have about some stuff that Brian said. But whatever, like who cares? Like let's just go well and then everybody looks good.
Yeah, I mean, even me, and trust me, if there's anybody that's going to jump out and just say it. Buddy, when Archie Miller was here, it was it was just like getting up to breathe that he was getting an ass ripping because it was today.
Well, their style of play was so bad. Like that's what was tough to watch. Like, it wasn't that we weren't getting recruits and it wasn't the different stuff. And, I mean, there's a lot of stuff with this staff that they've been successful at, and there's some things that they've missed out on. And I think, the Liam McNeely thing, leaving and going to another school with the success that he's having when we already basically had him locked up, like that's something as a staff I would try to make sure never happened again. And it will happen again because you watch what just happened in all the football flips. Guys were going to go here, committed here, and ended up signing going somewhere else on the, in a one-day period. It's going to happen. You just got to do your best to try to make sure that doesn't happen again. Because that was a big loss. Liam McNeely would help this team win a lot. And
Can you imagine him and Mackenzie Mbako on the
Oh,
floor?
no,
at the same time?
I'd have imagined it. Yeah, I would like to have seen that. Yeah.
Todd Leary, the shot father. Make sure you go to myjumpshot.com if you have the need, the kids, or if you have a team, the whole team deal. There's just all kinds of scenarios. Appreciate you, my friend. Enjoy your weekend of college football. Good luck to the Georgia Bulldogs for Jessica.
Yep. Yeah. We need them to win. For me to have a good weekend, we need them to win.
Would you go to the Between the Hedges to watch the game if that happened?
We would. Yes, we would.
Well, let's hope for it, man. Todd Leary, appreciate you, my brother.
Thanks. Enjoyed it.
You betcha. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We'll take another pause for the cause from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Back with more right after this. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Hoosier Hanks East, located on College Ball Road in front of Kroger in Bloomington, is everything you could want. Great food like their custom pizzas, wings, wraps, unbeatable daily drink specials, live music on Fridays, and Hoosier Hanks East is home to Inside Indiana Football and Inside Indiana Basketball coaches shows hosted by Don Fisher. Be on the lookout for Hoosier Hanks ticket giveaways to Indiana and Colts games on social media. Stop by and meet Hoosier Hank at Hoosier Hanks East on College Ball Road in Bloomington. Hungry for something a little different? Well, head to the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm with a Cajun flair, like their loaded voodoo fries, gator bites, or jambalaya, and so much more. The Rusty Gator also has live music each Friday and Saturday night with some of the best local and regional artists around. Visit the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford and get your Cajun on. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Friday of a spectacular sports weekend ahead of us, as we've got a college basketball game tonight. There's actually another Big Ten game tonight as well. I believe it's Illinois. Yep, Illinois travels to Northwestern. I don't think they're playing that one at Wrigley, though. Number 19, Illinois, one of the ranked teams of the Big Ten, is Indiana, hosting Miami of Ohio. Both of those games on the BTN, 7 p.m. tip for Indiana, 9 o'clock for Illinois Northwestern. Georgetown, West Virginia, also on the docket tonight. That's on ESPN2, a light night for College basketball. Well, no, there's several other games. Trying to see if there's anything of consequence. I don't really see anything that stands out. So, Xavier, TCU. Oh no, that's already happened. Those are all last night games. Other games tonight, again, though, still nothing jumping out at me off the schedule. So, we'll just get prepared for this weekend's football feast of college conference championships that will set in stone the college football playoff rankings. Right now, Indiana slated to play Georgia, but that is if they lose to Texas. I am going out on a limb and assuming if Texas were to lose that game, it's hard to imagine they would drop that far, but would they just swap Texas and Georgia to achieve a few things? Number one, that would give you an SEC Big Ten crossover matchup. That would still give the SEC a home game and keeping it equal with the Big Ten. Not really, though, because the Big Ten still has 2 home games. I think OSU is still up inside of the top 10. So, but Jason, earlier when you mentioned Indiana, I just don't see any possibility of them hosting a game. I don't see that path opening up. There's too much that would have to happen. The Palestra. I meant to mention that to Todd, ask him if he ever played at the Palestra. When Indiana basketball will play Penn State in January, which is one of those cool places, man. Cool location. Let's see. Looking at the comments on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, Meisterberger. He's asking about attendance. I'm not sure what. Yes, he was. That pecan pie talking about Don Haskins, the coach of UTEP back in the day. But man, this is going to be a fun weekend of football. Because I'll get to watch it all unfold. Indiana doesn't play, so get to take it all in. Who wins the Big Ten championship? I had one of the publishers from one of the other rival sites asked everybody, all the publishers, to give their 2 cents. And mine is that Oregon wins this game. I respect Penn State's defense, but not much respect for their offense. And I don't think that they have the ability to put up the kinds of numbers that it's going to take to beat an Oregon team. But not that it can't happen if they're able to shut them down. But Penn State has not truly beaten anyone this year. A. B, the teams that they struggled against and probably should have lost to, USC and Minnesota, are teams that like to throw the ball. And we saw earlier in the season when Penn State played Bowling Green and Connor Bazelak, Tom Allen's former quarterback, took it to Penn State in Happy Valley. They have been susceptible to the pass all year long. And I don't see that changing. I think that Oregon wins that game 27-13 or 31-13, something like that. And not only that, losing is the best thing that can happen to Penn State, in my opinion, because you lose that game, you're not losing your spot at number 5 in the CFP rankings right now. I think they stay right exactly the same. What that gets them is a home game against the lowest seeded team in the field, which will likely be the Big 12 champion, either Arizona or Iowa State. Arizona State or Iowa State. So they'll get to play the lowest ranked CFP team. If they win that game, they will likely play Boise State, the lowest ranked of all of the bye seeds. And quite frankly, Boise State would not be that high if it wasn't an automatic bye. I hate that. They've got it. They won't, but there's no way a team that is ranked 12th or whatever Boise State is should have the 4th seed. It's crap. But that's how it is at the moment. But anyway, I digress. Penn State would have a pretty easy path, the easiest path to me, because they would play the 2 lowest ranked teams in the playoffs back to back. It's like, man, they've had a pretty easy schedule all season, and it stays that way. How in the world you can go through this many games and not play more impactful games is utterly amazing, but Penn State could literally get to the national semifinals, Final Four, without having truly beat anyone. Who knows? We'll see how that goes. Hey, we'll take a quick pause for the cause. The golden voice of Matt.Taylor from your Indianapolis Colts is set to join us next. We've got lots more coming up. We'll be back with it right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com.
Hoosier Hanks East, located on College Ball Road in front of Kroger in Bloomington, is everything you could want. Great food like their custom pizzas, wings, wraps, unbeatable daily drink specials, live music on Fridays, and Hoosier Hanks East is home to Inside Indiana Football and Inside Indiana Basketball coaches shows hosted by Don Fisher. Be on the lookout for Hoosier Hanks ticket giveaways to Indiana and Colts games on social media. Stop by and meet Hoosier Hank at Hoosier Hanks East on College Ball Road in Bloomington. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Friday, a frozen Friday, but that's okay. I'm inside, and so are you. Joined now by the golden voice of Matt.Taylor. Matthew, how are you doing, sir?
Hey, good morning. What's happening? How are you?
You know it, brother. I'm just trying to stay warm.
I'm clocking in at 19 up here in Indianapolis. How about you?
Yeah. You know what? I think it was just right around that. 18. You got me by a degree.
You should move north.
Yeah, I hear that northern climate's a little too rough, though. So that extra degree is more than I can take. I remember being in college because I am from real Southern Indiana, not these fake South Central Southern Indiana. And
are you saying Bloomington's not Southern Indiana? Is that what you're saying?
No,
All
it
right.
is not Southern Indiana.
Okay.
It's south of Indianapolis, but it's not Southern Indiana. Just like Evansville is not Southern Indiana, it's Southwestern Indiana.
All right. So
and I'm sticking to it.
Is it like Louisville, Jeffersonville, and
exactly?
New
Albany, Jeffersonville, Clarksville.
All right.
Even the Scott County above that, Madison.
All right.
All that area.
What about
Austin,
Lawrenceburg?
Scottsburg?
Lawrenceburg,
that's Southeast Indiana. That's no man's land.
Well, what do you say? Why do you say that? Lawrenceburg
Well,
is beautiful.
I don't mean it negatively, but it almost gets forgotten a lot, that area of the state, because Cincinnati is so dominant, maybe.
Well, they got the Milan Miracle in that part of the state, man.
Yes, you are correct, sir. You are correct. And they make a lot of bourbon. They make a lot of bourbon down there.
Fair enough.
How's your week
up
going,
to,
brother?
Things are good. You know, took a couple days off this week with the Colts on the bye. The kids are at school right now. I got the house to myself, so catching up on the one bad thing that I will say about having the awesome job that I have. The one thing that does come with a little bit of a caveat is there's a lot of house neglect for 6-7 months, right?
Dude,
so there's a lot of,
you are preaching to the choir.
There's a lot of things that literally and figuratively get swept under the rug when you're 7 days a week for 7 months. So this week has been a lot about cleaning and decluttering right before Christmas. You know the drill with Santa coming. So it's been good to get some stuff done around the house, spend some time with the kids at night, not have to work in the evening. So it's been good. It's been a good little recharge here.
Laundry and shopping were the order of the day yesterday after the full day.
All right.
I'm like,
where do you do your shopping at?
Man, I went to Sam's yesterday.
All right.
I purchased in bulk. I like to make my trips meaningful. I'm like, all right, I'm set. I'm hunkering down for the winter, Matt.
Did you get the doorbusters? You go Black Friday shopping? Any extended deals?
No, I was just mainly in for food, man. Got me a big old box of burritos. You know how everything's a box. You get everything in a box.
Well, that's not shopping. I thought you meant like you're going shopping. That's just grocery
Christmas
shopping.
No,
yeah.
That's all. That's online, man.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
See, I don't go shopping. I go buying. There's a difference. I don't shop. I buy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I shop when I go shopping, and it's neither good for my wallet nor my time management.
Well, see, that's why I just buy, because time is more important than money. You know what I mean? Like I can search for, I can buy the same TV down the street for $25 less. Nope. I go buying. I don't have time for that.
Exactly. I hear you. Colts off week, kind of a time to recharge. You mentioned recharging your batteries. The same for the team as they get to recharge, reset, reevaluate, look at things, what's working, what's not working.
Yeah.
How can they move into this next phase? And
they're going into it in a positive vibe. I mean, coming off of a win over a rival, the Patriots, just getting that win and the way they got it. And going for two on the road, you go for two, go for the win, and they were successful.
Yeah, it was an exhilarating victory for the Colts, and you apologize for nothing, right? You beat a team in the Patriots that has, they have 3 wins on the season. But listen, you're finding ways to win, and you've won 2 of your last 3 games. Both of your victories have come on the road, and they have been in dramatic fashion. You've won those games by 1 point each, and it's come with fourth quarter, late game-winning drive heroics by Anthony Richardson. So in that regard, he's taking the next steps in his career and his development, and he's got that, clutch gene, if you will, to get it done on the road in hostile environments. But I think it was a huge, that win last week was so important, both psychologically and then within the standings as well. It really does keep the Colts alive in the AFC playoff picture. Had they lost that game, coupled with that Denver win on Monday Night Football against Cleveland, the Colts might be, basically on life support right now with their hopes to make the playoffs. And even in saying that, their game coming up after the bye next Sunday against Denver, I don't think it's hyperbole to say that it's a end all be all game. It's really shaping up, at least for the Colts anyways, to be a wild card bowl game against the Denver Broncos. The Colts are 6-7, Denver's 8-5. So the Colts trail by 2 games for that 7th and final postseason berth inside the AFC. So a win after the bye would pull the Colts within just 1 game with 3 games to go in the regular season, and a loss would give the Broncos a 3-game lead and the tiebreaker over the Colts, again, with only 3 games to go, meaning the Colts could not surpass them mathematically. So it really is shaping up to be a must-win game for the Colts. You look at their schedule down the stretch, them being Indianapolis, they have Denver, obviously. Then after that, 3 very winnable games against Tennessee, Jacksonville, and the Giants. Meanwhile, the Broncos, if they would lose to the Colts, they would slip back to 8-6. They would still control their own destiny, but they would have a difficult final 3 games looming for them. They would be at the Chargers, at Cincinnati, and then they would play Kansas City to end the season. So that's a much more difficult schedule on paper than the Colts have. So the Colts need to get this win and then be 1 game better in the final 3 than the Broncos in order to make the playoffs. But it basically means that if you don't win this game against Denver, your playoff hopes, I don't know what they would mathematically be, but it would be, close to single digits, I'm assuming, if the Colts don't get this huge game coming up after the bye against Denver, the team they're primarily chasing to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and probably not the easiest place to play in Denver. Of course, you've got the elevation to deal with. And as a football player, that has to be maybe the most difficult of all, sport-wise, to play at that level, that elevation.
I've talked to a lot of guys about that over the years, and it just kind of depends on who you are and what position you play, because I've heard it both ways. And again, I think it just depends on, who you are, what position you play, and how much, physical exertion you're putting out each and every play. Some of the quarterbacks obviously will tell you that they don't really notice it. The running backs will say, it's a big deal. Some of the defensive linemen say, yeah, we kind of gasp for air a little bit more. Some guys in the back end say, we don't really, pick up on it. So I think the biggest factor in the game when you play out there, literally a mile high, is the air with the ball flight. It's the kickers, it's the ball flight, the traveling of the football through the air. So, a guy like Matt Gay, who can routinely knock him down from 55 to 58, maybe he can go back to, 60 or 61 because the ball just literally travels a little bit further up there with that thin air. So, I think it's kind of overblown, the thin air, and guys with, you see that scene all the time with guys with the masks on and the air machines on the sideline. You don't really see too much of that anymore these days, because these athletes are so conditioned and they're in such good shape.
Yeah, those guys were smoking cigarettes in the locker room at halftime,
right.
man.
Yeah, this isn't the late 80s anymore when you're showing up to training camp to physically, literally get in shape. Now it's a 365-day job to, stay in condition. So I think it is a little bit of a less factor now in modern day present football.
There is nothing I love more than seeing one of those old photos from a halftime guy's got a cigarette in one hand and a beer in the other.
Yeah, that Lynn Dawson
room.
Super Bowl one shot of him, you're right, just sitting on a folding chair, smoking a heater.
I mean, you want to talk about some just tough old grizzly dudes.
Yeah,
that was
like a scene from North Dallas 40, man.
Exactly. Big college weekend. I know you're a fan, man. This is a big one. All the conference championships right there in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil. We'll see one of the biggest games of the weekend as Penn State and Oregon will get it on.
Absolutely. You going? You coming up?
I'm taking it off. I want to watch the games all day instead of getting traveled and all that and take away. So I've got several games I need to watch.
I'm with you. So give me the scoreboard, the rooting scoreboard here for Indiana. What should we be rooting for?
I don't think it matters. Nothing is really going to change much for Indiana, I don't think. My only question is if Clemson were to beat SMU, because SMU is in the top 12, Clemson is not. Do they just move SMU down and Clemson takes that auto berth? I'll talk to Jeffrey the Greek here in a second. As a matter of fact, he's in the green room. I'll bring him on in. Matt or Jeffrey, I'm sure you heard Matt's question. I don't think there's a path for Indiana to change no matter what happens with these conference championships. Jeffrey, do you agree with that?
Yeah, no. Indiana's in. I mean, you do bring up a good point that I guess if I'm super anxious, if I'm a Hoosier fan, I go ahead and root for SMU just to squelch any kind of doubt. But the lowest I've seen Indiana is 11, which means there's even more of one more spot in there, which would bump them to 12. You might not like that matchup quite as much, but
actually, I think 12 is the spot to be.
Hold on. I do have a question.
Okay.
And you guys know more about this than I do, and maybe I'm a novice at this, right? So ignorant question, but don't you want Clemson to beat SMU so that SMU would fall back and Indiana would move up?
I don't know that that's going to happen, though, because they have really been adamant about the conference championship games not really dinging the loser.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the one scenario that's different because the potential winner is not in the top 12. So now what do? Do you just move SMU down? I think they're 8th. Do they move down?
Yeah, they would move down. I agree that they don't want to ding the conference champions. My theory is that they don't want the ratings for the conference championship games to take a ding. So they will keep the conference. They will protect the conference championship games for the TV networks, because let's be honest, this is all about the TV networks. But in this instance, the committee has not shown a ton of respect for the ACC and especially Big 12. I think the loser of that game, which is going to have 2, if not, Clemson is definitely out. I think they would drop them below Indiana, but it's at least a fair point that if you want to remove all shadow of doubt as a Hoosier fan, go ahead and cheer for SMU.
It's just going to be interesting.
I love it. It's going to be great. I can't wait for it. Hey, Jim, I got to run, man. I got a guy here. He's going to fix the thing because I am the least handy man you guys know. So I'm going to bail and I'm going to let you guys talk some college football, but I will talk to you next week, my friend.
Appreciate you, Matt.Taylor, the voice of the Indianapolis Colts, joining us.
I'm going to go throw a hammer and break some drywall. All right.
Yes. Enjoy it.
Nice.
Enjoy it.
Demo day.
All right. Jeffrey, you guys have a great weekend.
Matt.Taylor joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jeffrey the Greek along the side as well from Eyes on Big podcast. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, it is all college football, baby.
Lots more coming up. Brought to you by Pave Drain Heated Solutions. Before we go to break, talk to us about Pave Drain.
Hey, the cold's here, right? The snow's coming. If you don't want to deal with any kind of snow or ice accumulated in front of your house, in front of your building that you maybe are developing, talking to developers out there, very efficient way an inexpensive way that we can set up the driveway or entry to your building with Pave Drain. It will be a heated, infiltrated entrance to a building or your garage. Give me a call, find me on the website, and we can get you there.
Absolutely. It sounds like a spot to be. I'd like to be laying on a heated driveway right now. It's cold here, brother. It's in the teens.
I know. It is here too.
That's not acceptable. We've got lots more coming up. We'll be back with it to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios right after these messages. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. When it comes to apparel and promotions, FreeThink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. FreeThink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. FreeThink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what FreeThink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order. Hungry for something a little different? Well, head to the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm with a Cajun flair, like their loaded voodoo fries, gator bites, or jambalaya, and so much more. The Rusty Gator also has live music each Friday and Saturday night with some of the best local and regional artists around. Visit the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford and get your Cajun on. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this very frigid Friday. But we have got Jeffrey the Greek from Pave Drain Heated Solutions, so we don't need no stinking frozen driveway.
That's right. Take care of that for you.
Absolutely. Zach Osterman, we missed him earlier. He didn't get the link. He may jump on for a second. He broke the story yesterday that Tino Sunseri will be heading to UCLA as their new offensive coordinator, replacing Eric Bieniemy. And it has paid immediate dividends, Greek, as they now flip a 4-star quarterback from Arizona to UCLA less than 24 hours after. There's Zach. So we'll bring him in just to talk about this before we get to the championships. But Zach Osterman joining us as well as Jeffrey the Greek. And Zach, I just kind of set up the fact that you broke that story yesterday of Tino Sunseri leaving Indiana to become UCLA's new offensive coordinator after this completion of this season. And congratulations to him for that. And it paid immediate dividends for UCLA as they flip a 4-star quarterback. The one thing that I have to ask is the last 2 times Indiana lost a coach like this, even though they stayed, was Kalen DeBoer, and then it was Kane Womack. And there seemed to be an impact on both ends of those games, those seasons when that happened. Hopefully that's not going to be the case here, as Tino is staying with the program through the end of whenever that comes.
Yeah, first of all, I'm sorry. Both of your emails went in my junk folder. I don't know why.
Well, that's because I'm a junky person. So
no, it makes me feel better. My boss's emails go to my junk folder all the time too. It's very frustrating. I don't know why.
Convenient. That's convenient, Zach. That's what I'm thinking.
It is. It's about me forgetting to enter my payroll hours, and then it's not convenient anymore. No, I mean, listen, I saw some UCLA fans, and this is just on Twitter, but I saw some UCLA fans sort of saying, what a great hire. We got Indiana's offensive coordinator. Obviously, I think it's a great hire for UCLA. I think it is important to note it is not, Tino Sunseri is not Indiana's offensive coordinator. Mike Shanahan's its play caller. Shanahan and Cignetti have very much collaborated on this offense for a long time. Now, I think what might be instructive in looking forward, I guess I should say, to the question of who Curt Cignetti replaces Tino Sunseri with, is why Curt Cignetti hired Tino Sunseri in the first place, which was that Sunseri was kind of Steve Sarkisian's right-hand man at Alabama when Sarkisian was the OC for Nick Saban before he got the Texas job. And Cignetti wanted basically to bring somebody in that could, kind of talk firsthand about all the stuff Sark was doing in Tuscaloosa, because Cignetti wanted to adapt some of that into his offense. A guy like Tino, and I think this is a little bit the difference to DeBoer and Womack, is he was not full coordinator, unlike those guys. He received co-offensive coordinator as part of his title when he went from James Madison to Indiana. He was already seen as a real rising star at JMU before he came to IU. I think part of the reason Indiana gave him the title bump was to keep him kind of with Cignetti for at least a year. But coaches like Tino Sunseri, quite frankly, you hire them expecting them to leave you. You hire them thinking, he's a really promising young coach. We want him here, because he's going to make us better. And if he makes us better, because he's young, because of the trajectory his career's on, he's going to get a bigger job soon. And I think everybody could recognize that Tino was going to get a full OC shot soon. I think probably there are some personal connections here. Deshaun Foster was with the Panthers at the same time that Tino's dad, Sal, was the Panthers D-line coach, and Tino used to hang out at the Panthers facility all the time. So I'm guessing they know each other, kind of dating all the way back, more than 20 years now. But from Indiana's perspective, while you never want to see good people go out the door, Indiana will have known that if Tino Sunseri continued his good work from James Madison to IU, that this day was going to come fairly soon. And if you're Indiana, you got to do good work in replacing him, and it'll be interesting to see the direction Curt Cignetti goes. But in the same breath, you are keeping both your coordinators, your play callers, the people responsibility for building the larger game plan. Everybody else signed a new multi-year contract. And so I think that it's a loss, but it is one that Indiana will probably have known was possible for, months now, just not maybe knowing exactly where Tino Sunseri would get that opportunity. And B, it's a loss that you would imagine Curt Cignetti has a certain plan for.
Absolutely. I mean, a coach like Signetti, he probably has a list at all times, like most good ADs do, of because that's going to happen, especially if you have success. It's going to happen. But even though Indiana has bumped up its salary pool for the assistant coaches to what is the second in the nation behind Ohio State in an effort to minimize this happening, although this is let's be honest, the goal of these guys are to become head coaches most of the time. Greek, I mean, that's every head coach was an assistant at some point.
Not every, but most. The thing with the change in the offensive room for the Hoosiers that I'll be interested in is it was somewhat of a unique situation to begin with, in that typically speaking, the offensive coordinator, also the quarterback coach, and that's kind of how you want it. You want the trigger man to have a direct line to the offensive coordinator, and I'm not saying it wasn't before, but would Shanahan take over that quarterback room, or are they going to go find another Sunseri? That's what'll be interesting to me. Being inside locker rooms like that, sometimes it's amazing how often one coach can make a huge difference, and I don't know the ins and outs exactly how the game plan is built, how much communication was going on between essentially the three entities, Shanahan, Sunseri, and the quarterback. Like, we know it was happening, but now that's going to be changed up a little bit moving forward. So that'll be interesting to see how Siggy and Shanahan address that. Are they going to just bring in a new quarterback coach? I don't know if Zach's got any information on what the game plan is for that.
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly the direction they're going, and I don't think in part because Tino's going to stay around, as Jim said, through the playoff. I don't think Indiana feels like they got to get somebody in the door tomorrow because they have someone that can literally do like the on-field work in practice. Shanahan's never coached quarterbacks. He was a receiver at Pitt. Yep. That's actually kind of his background with Tino, as they both were Pitt guys. He's always coached receivers, and actually Signetti said when Signetti went to James Madison, he brought Shanahan with him as his receivers coach and his recruiting coordinator. He had a guy named Shane Montgomery who was his QB's coach and OC. Montgomery left. I forget where for. He's at UMass now. Signetti promoted Shanahan to offensive coordinator, and he said that actually, I mentioned earlier, like one of the main reasons he hired Tino was to get kind of that sort of absorb some of that Sark offensive identity off of Tino. But he's actually said that he liked the dynamic of how it worked, that his quarterbacks coach, ultimately there's an extent to which coaching quarterbacks is kind of the most intensive job in the offense, because quarterbacks have to grasp so much and process so much and develop so much. And he kind of liked splitting those responsibilities so that the guy that needed to worry about building the game plan, calling plays, coordinating the offense week to week didn't also have to work with the quarterbacks, because that's basically the two, other than maybe offensive line, that's like the two biggest jobs in the offense. And he kind of, I mean, a lot of that was, I think a lot of his trust in that was basically Shanahan and Sunseri being able to work well together and their relationship. So maybe that'll factor into it as well, who he hires next. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if he goes for a similar setup where he goes for a quarterback's coach who maybe has co-OC or assistant OC in his title, but it's really much more QBs. Because, like, Jim brought up Kalen DeBoer a couple minutes ago. When Indiana hired DeBoer, they moved Nick Sheridan from quarterbacks to tight ends because DeBoer wanted to be OC and QB's coach. But if you were at practice, on a regular basis, you would see DeBoer turn the quarterbacks over to Sheridan pretty consistently because he trusted Sheridan. Obviously, he's taken him with him to Washington and now Alabama, but also because DeBoer had to be able to get around to all the different position groups and observe things, help coach things, and have a grasp of what's going on all the burners on the stove, so to speak. So I wouldn't be shocked if Signetti kind of looks at that and says, I had a good experience with not giving my OC the added responsibility, but having a dedicated QB's coach that could work collaboratively, but basically split up those two really important duties. I mean, we'll see. Because I do think
definitely unique.
No, it is. And I think it is worth saying, I think it also worked because Tino and Shanahan worked so well together. And I mean, Tino,
there you go.
I think they basically played at Pitt rough, like maybe they were like a year apart or 2 years apart. But like the point is they were teammates in college. They've known each other forever. So I
Long
think that
time.
really
Yep.
part of it. But I wouldn't be shocked to see Cignetti pursue a similar dynamic if he can find a person he feels like can do it.
And that's why you see these coaches. That's why you see these coaches stay within their tree because that level of trust, it's a big thing. These egos are rampant with these college coaches. You bring in somebody that's got the same level of ego that, maybe Siggy is at and Shanahan's at, and suddenly says, no, I need things done this way with how I coach quarterbacks. That's what you bring into the table with that. So it's a big hire, moving forward. I'm sure Siggy saw some of this going. I'm sure it's going to be somebody that played the position. It'll just be interesting to see. And then obviously pretty quickly after that, there's going to be a different quarterback in Bloomington as well. So it's Indiana football, man. It's the mecca right now of interesting conversations. So it's going to be cool to see how this transpires.
My question is, how is this going to affect recruiting because of the timing, and whether what Indiana is going to do with the quarterback position, I'm not sure. I'm sure I would think that they're going to try to bring in another experienced quarterback if that is the case, because now you're looking at a situation where there are guys that will want to come to Indiana, but part of that was to play for someone like Sunseri, who has had success. We see immediately he gets the quarterback flip at UCLA. So I'm wondering if that may impact the recruiting as far as the quarterbacks go.
No, I mean, like he was central in recruiting Curtis Rourke, and obviously Indiana didn't wind up getting Julian Lewis, but even being kind of at the final table for a player like Julian Lewis, a lot of that was Tino as well. I think, the one thing that is, I think, particularly relevant to this conversation, and I forget which of us asked Cignetti about it, but sometime early in the season, like first half of the season, one of us asked Cignetti in a press conference, like for kind of an evaluation of Shanahan's play calling so far that year. And did he feel like, the way it was phrased, he said something like, the reporter said something like, do you feel like Mike Shanahan's doing a good job with his offense? And Cignetti kind of like deadpanned back, and he was joking, but I don't. He was joking,
remember this moment.
Kind of wasn't. He says, "Well, it's my offense, right?"
Yes, he did.
So when you're talking about quarterback, I mean, even go back to the driving force behind hiring Tino Sunseri. The reason that he did this, the reason he was so enamored with Sark's offense was JMU didn't play in the COVID fall. FCS postponed its season until the spring of 21 because of attendance concerns. And JMU was still in the FCS at that time. So Cignetti decided he was just going to pick a team and do like just a really deep dive on what they were doing offensively, look at all their film, chart all their plays, whatever. And he just like fell in love with what Sark was doing at Alabama as OC. So like the whole reason for hiring Tino was absorbing through Tino a lot of what Tino had helped Sark do at Alabama. And when you remember that, like, yes, that made Tino really valuable, but it was also like the more sort of like fundamentally instructive piece of that is you had a head coach that is constantly thinking about and evolving his offense because it is his offense. When he promoted Mike Shanahan to offensive coordinator at JMU, he was doing that in part because Shanahan had been with him so long and had such a good understanding of what Cignetti wants to do offensively that he trusted him to be OC, to call plays, and to manage that side of the ball. So when you're talking about, personnel and recruiting and whatever, like, yes, there's an extent to which quarterbacks coach will be important, and I wouldn't be shocked if we see Indiana move fairly quickly, if for no other reason than because everybody else is going to be moving quickly. We've already seen a decent amount of staff turnover, and you don't want to wind up in a situation where you take too much time and guys that you might want to bring in wind up going somewhere else. Obviously, it's going to be kind of a weird dynamic if they bring somebody in before they play in the playoff. and you almost kind of have two QBs coaches at once. But I do think that, like, most fundamentally, it's Cignetti's offense. It has been pretty much since the beginning of his career. He's the one that evolves it. He's the one that develops it. He's the one that sort of schemes it alongside the coaches that have been with him for a long time. And so I think when you're talking about recruiting another quarterback, which he has said, Indiana will go look for a veteran quarterback in the portal. He didn't say to start, but he said it in a way that very much gives you the idea that they're going to look for somebody that comes in to compete for the QB1 job in a serious way immediately. Cignetti, to me, is still the most important person in that conversation. Not that Tino Sunseri wasn't.
He's the head coach.
Very important. But Cignetti, not just as a head coach, but as the person who literally, sort of brained up the offense, Cignetti is the most important person there. He is going to be the ultimate authority, no matter who the quarterback's coach is, on who they pursue based on the skill set that he wants, the traits that he's looking for, the opportunity available to whoever they recruit. And we've seen him linked to, Jackson Arnold, I think Miller Moss from USC. There's going to be more guys that aren't in the portal yet because underclassmen can't technically declare for the portal yet, or can't enter the portal yet, at least. But Cignetti's the final authority on that one way or the other, and I think he's going to be the most important person in that conversation.
And if you want to confirm that, if you want to confirm that, just ask Siggy.
Yeah. Brained up the offense. That is my favorite quote of the day. I love that. That is awesome. And now changing gears a little bit, a huge weekend, Zach and Jeffrey, that will pretty much cement the rankings. I don't think there's going to be a lot of change. I keep thinking that if Penn State is not moving any further down than they are, if they lose that game, what I do wonder is if Texas loses, do they just swap spots with Georgia and the CFP keeps this Big Ten SEC thing kind of going, still giving the SEC a home game? And then question number 2, what happens if Clemson beats SMU? Do they stay in the top 12 and just kick Alabama out?
That'll be the interesting thing. As far as the first question, they're definitely still going to favor the Big Ten and the SEC, as they should. Not that I want to see everybody else kicked out of the playoff. I don't think Indiana is in any real concern, but just to make myself a little bit more comfortable, if I'm a Hoosier fan, I probably go ahead and cheer for SMU in the ACC championship, just to leave absolutely no doubt whatsoever. After that, how the seeding is going to fall, if the favorites win out, I think it's pretty close to what you saw projected on Tuesday night. If there's some upsets, I do think it'll jumble it, but not as much as people think. Again, kind of what we said on the last segment. I don't think the committee wants to set the precedent that if you get into the conference championship game and lose, that you get dinged a whole lot, because I think that would cause a lot of issues, especially with the Big Ten and SEC commissioners. Now, obviously, it's a different story when you get to the Big 12 and ACC, because the Big 12 and ACC are considered such a step down for the Big Ten and SEC. And a lot of times, we're looking at 2 and 3 loss teams in those championships. So the only way those teams can get in is if they win their conference championship. So it's a little bit different deal. But as far as the effect on Indiana, it shouldn't make much difference. And, this is kind of the byproduct that we're seeing with this. The attendance, from what it looks like for Penn State and Oregon, is down. I don't know if you guys have seen, but the ticket prices to get into Indy, I mean, a lot of your listeners here are pretty close to Lucas Oil. I think you can get in. I think you could drive in and get in pretty cheap tomorrow night if you want to go check out some Big Ten football. And why is that? If you're an Oregon fan or you're a Penn State fan, you're into the college football playoff either way. If you're an Oregon fan or a Penn State fan, you got to save up potentially to go to the first round college football playoff game. So maybe I don't want to travel all the way into Indianapolis. So these Big Ten or these conference championship games are taking a little bit of as is. So I just don't think the committee is going to drop the top conference losers down very much.
Yeah, I think there is a fascinating and layered discussion about the conference championships. And, if we're talking about like the rankings, if Penn State loses heavy, if Texas loses heavy, do they really get dinged? Because like Penn State would have one more win than Ohio State, for example, but Ohio State, they both be 2-loss teams, and Ohio State did beat Penn State at Penn State. I think a lot of that stuff is largely superfluous, and yes, it affects seeding and who plays who where. But as Jeff said, like broadly speaking, I think with maybe one exception, which is the ACC championship game, we kind of feel like all these teams are in. It's a question of where they're playing, and at a certain point, I get you want to host a game, but like if you're in the college football playoff, it's going to be hard. So you just kind of have to embrace that.
Right.
The more fascinating,
I would say the big facet is where you want to stay, understanding that you're going to get kicked off the 1, 2, 3, or 4 line. You want to stay at 5, 6, 7, or 8. That's the key.
Right, yeah.
Is could a team go from 8 to 9, 8 to 10, because now you're losing the whole playoff game. We're still kind of seeing how this is going to get worked out with these conference championship games and how the committee is looking. So that is what adds to the intrigue this weekend.
I think the more fascinating conversation for me, and we already saw the committee open a real can of worms last year when it didn't let Florida State in. And I get that there was at least an argument for leaving Florida State out with Jordan Travis injured and everything. But like we have spent 12 months sifting through the fallout of that, with teams considering leaving the ACC, with the questions of how we have devalued winning conference championships. It would only intensify if SMU were to lose to Clemson and then be essentially ejected out of the top 12 or top 11, if you want to see it that way, for a 3-loss Alabama team. And the reason why is, like, you make good points about, number one, those fan bases. I know they have bigger fish to fry. The conference championship is only one, is only one sort of facet of what they're playing for in the next month. Number two, obviously, listen, this is going to be a factor for the Big Ten more so than the SEC, because while the SEC could contain geographically a fair amount of its expansion, the Big Ten, because it could not do that the way the SEC could, had to go coast to coast. It's just no matter. I've seen people say, "I'll play the game in Chicago." You're not going to get Oregon fans to play in Chicago any more than Indianapolis in December. It's a long way to go when there are other games on the horizon that might be just as important, if not in some ways more important to them. Conference championship games, though, exist purely to make TV money. Like that is why
for sure
started. When Roy Kramer came up with the SEC championship game in the early 90s, it was completely and totally driven by his partnerships or his relationship with ABC, his conference's relationship with ABC. That is why they exist. And the difficulty you have here, and this is where you're kind of seeing the collision of like conference concerns versus national concerns, is if you start setting a precedent, and people roll their eyes at this, but I promise you it will become a concern going forward. If SMU loses to Clemson and the committee leaves SMU out and basically says a 3-loss SEC team is worth more than a 2-loss ACC team that also has 2 more wins, then people will start asking whether it's worth skipping conference championship games or trying to angle to not play in them or whatever. And the problem you have there is conference championship games. And again, I've seen people talking about tickets. Ticket sales are great. Ticket sales are not what conference championship games are there for. They are television products. And if you start cheapening them, if the committee does things that start cheapening them, then it will start losing the conference's money at the expense of making the playoff more money. And that is a dangerous precedent to set when everybody in the room here, like it's an uneasy sort of standoff because everybody's kind of against each other, but everybody has the same sort of needs and common goals. Like the committee obviously would be spared all this headache if SMU wins. But if Clemson wins, what the committee does with SMU is going to be really, really impactful one way or another on the future of conference championship games. And I don't know if, like, when we get so wrapped up, and not the three of us, but I see it on Twitter, when we get so wrapped up in this game should be played here instead of there, and the attendance this and whatever, like, that's not the bigger threat to the value of these games. The bigger threat is the idea of setting that precedent that you can qualify for your conference championship, lose it, and get knocked out of the playoff.
But they still want those. They still want those crowd shots of, panning back and actually seeing people in the stands. So, like, there's a lot of factors in there for sure. By the way, I want to give a shout out to our girl Gritty Jennifer. She sent me, I think she's put a message out. She's sending me a Sig 10 shirt, and I just want to tell her how much I appreciate it. I'll be wearing that during Indiana's playoff game.
We'll look for the picture of that. Jeffrey the Greek.
For sure.
Brought to you by Pave Drain Heated Solutions. Make sure you go. What's the email or the website?
www.pavedrain.com.
Pretty easy. Zach Osman, the IU Insider for the Indy Star. Congratulations on breaking that story yesterday again, and look forward to all that you do. Appreciate you, sir.
Thanks for having me, Jim. Sorry I was late. Sorry about the email.
That's okay. It's worked out great, man. Worked out great. And maybe we'll do that again. That was kind of fun, Jeffrey.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
But it's always a blast with you, brother. We've got to wrap it up. Appreciate you guys more than you know. We've got we do have a live show on Sunday regarding the college football playoff rankings reveal, the final reveal. So make sure you're be ready to check that out. That will be up on YouTube and ready to go. But until then, I'm Jim Coyle. Big thanks to everybody today, including you most of all. Have yourself a great weekend. Stay warm. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.